Today we're going to be talking about binge drinking and whether binge drinking, which is like having a big session like a couple of times a month, is that healthier or better for you than drinking every day? So I'm going to clear up a lot of misconceptions about that. And this was actually prompted by a question, or it's actually a comment that somebody left on one of my other videos. And this, I'm going to read what they wrote. This was on the episode that talked about the health implications of drinking alcohol. How does this apply to casual binge drinkers, e.g., those who have a heavy session weekly, fortnightly, or monthly? Are we in a cycle of partial recovery and then just undoing it every time we go out on the lash? They're British because that's a British expression. I'm embarking on a 100-day alcohol-free challenge as a springboard, potentially to teetotalism, but also to compare it with singular dry months, which I manage fairly easily. As a man approaching 50, I obviously get that even one day of drinking like a student is going to have health impacts. So I'm going to just read into that, like drink, and I'm going to assume they're British as well. Drinking like a student is like multiple drinks, like just a lot of alcohol in one session. And I think this is, first of all, one of the biggest misconceptions, right? We think an alcohol problem is somebody who drinks every day. And if we don't drink every day, then we can't have an alcohol problem and we must be fine. And people will often do that. They will stop for do dry January 30 days, or this person's doing 100 days alcohol-free challenge to prove to themselves, no problem. I did 100 days. What's the problem? So I'm going to tell you something about myself first. I was never a daily drinker. I drank sort of Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, roughly. I could easily not drink Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, sometimes Thursday, sometimes Friday. And the reason for that was I drank so much in my binge sessions that I felt so terrible for several days. I needed several days to recover from that. So I was never a daily drinker. And I think that that's, first of all, one of the biggest misconceptions. Now, let me talk about what an alcohol problem is exactly, because I think that we are very, very, very good at rationalizing to ourselves that we don't have a problem with alcohol. And we have big misconceptions about what constitutes a problem with alcohol. I'm going to be honest, most people think a problem with alcohol is a homeless person. That's not me. I have a job and a car and I go on nice holidays, right? And it couldn't be further from the truth. How do you know if you have a problem with alcohol? Those people do four things. They drink, they think about drinking, they think about not drinking, and they recover from drinking. So it's not about when you drink, how much you drink, what happens when you drink. It's whether you do those four things. And the biggest giveaway is the thinking about not drinking. That's the biggest giveaway. So this person who's asked this question obviously does a lot of thinking about not drinking. Alcohol rents space in our heads, and it really shouldn't, because it's an inanimate object, right? It's the amount of space it rents in our heads. Now, the other thing I use to measure is when we do those four things, those four things, drinking, thinking about not drinking, and recovering, take up a lot of bandwidth. Bandwidth is energy and space to think thoughts. How much bandwidth are you giving to alcohol? Let me know in the comments below. 20, 30, 40, 50, 60% of your available bandwidth. And by the way, bandwidth is finite, right? And as you age, you're going to have less of it. So how much bandwidth are you exchanging in your relationship with alcohol? So it doesn't matter whether you're drinking every day or once a week, right? What is the bandwidth exchange? And are you okay with that? Are you okay with spending your available finite bandwidth in this manner? Here's the other question. And are you getting a good return on your investment? Now, the thing is about binge drinking, daily drinking. Binge drinking causes big spikes in dopamine, followed by sharp crashes, right? Then your body and your brain needs time to recover from that. And then you do it all over again, right? So Daily drinking can cause certainly chronic brain changes, but binge drinking is also impacting the brain, and you're constantly creating these spikes and then these sharp crashes. Then let's talk a little bit about the physical effects. Binge drinking creates a sudden strain on the heart. It raises blood pressure and triples the risk of a heart attack within 24 hours of a binge. So even though you may be not drinking for 3 weeks out of the month or whatever, you are impacting your health massively. And again, this is alongside aging. Daily drinking does the same thing, but I think almost they both have massive impacts on your health and massive consequences. Binge drinking is going to affect your liver functioning. And again, we're aging. So maybe you don't drink 2 or 3 weeks of the month, but you have these episodes. It's still going to massively impact your liver that then needs time to recover before you do it all over again. Binge drinking also temporarily suppresses the immune system for up to 3 days after drinking, which makes you more vulnerable to colds and flus and all that kind of stuff. So maybe you just binged at the weekend, but that then suppresses your immune system and you get sick, and you're sick for 2 weeks with the flu or a cold or COVID or whatever it is, right? Because of the impact that binge has. Now, daily drinking also does the same thing. Your body's constantly more vulnerable. But if you binge at a weekend and then you're sick with the flu for 2 weeks afterwards, that's a massive amount of bandwidth that has been eaten up by your relationship with alcohol. Now, we know there's a massive cancer link. There's no, and again, this is part of the rationalization, right? I don't drink every day. Not drinking every day is one of the biggest ways we deny that we have a problem with alcohol. It's how we rationalize that our drinking is not that bad. But there's no safe drinking levels. The safest way to not have alcohol cause cancer is no alcohol, none at all, right? So even occasional binges raise the risk of breast, mouth, colon cancers, other cancers that is being linked to. And even though we may not be physically dependent, and daily drinking is usually someone is psychologically and physically dependent, binge drinking means that we are psychologically dependent, and we're dependent on these patterns of escape, reward. It's like escape, reward, and regret. And it's just this, we remain in this cycle in it. And there is also the risk that our drinking could increase, right? It could be binge drinkers for years. And then this has actually happened to a lot of my clients during COVID, right? They will tell me, oh, I could take it or leave it. I'd have a big session, but, I could definitely not drink for weeks, not miss it. But COVID caused this escalation because it's progressive, right? This relationship with alcohol is progressive. How you drink now is not how it will always be. So hopefully that gave you some kind of idea about the difference between binge drinking and drinking every day and answered your questions. And if you want to change your relationship with alcohol, I have 2 ways of doing that. If you check below, there is a link to get the emotional sobriety toolkit, which is we need to be emotionally sober if we want to stay sober, because sobriety is 10% not drinking alcohol and 90% emotional sobriety. Or if you would like to get personal coaching with me, you can do that by joining my mastermind. And there is a link to do that below.